Welcome back to the Today with Tally podcast. Welcome back to the Today with Tally podcast. Folks, we have a great show in store for you today. Today is going to be a special show. It's going to be very educational for really everybody out there, especially the wives of police officers in today's day and age. But first,
hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Today with Tally. The mission and goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Today with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. Ladies and gentlemen, your host of the evening, Mr. Brian Tally.
Dana Williams is a native of Houston, Texas, and boy, it does run deep in her blood, the Texas tradition and Western Louisiana and everything else. So, you know, the food, the camaraderie, and the loyalty is definitely something very important to Dana Williams. Now, she has been married for 32 years, and 26 of those, she has been married to a police officer. That's right. The wives' lives behind the badge. What's it like being married to a police officer? And what's the daily struggle? And how do you overcome a lot of these challenges that police officers go through on a daily basis? And then they got to come home and live a second life. So with that, we are honored to be joined by Dana Williams, the wives' lives behind the badge. Good morning. How are you?
Morning. How are you, Tally? And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, we met just a week ago, and it was like meant to be. You have an amazing husband. A great man, and you know he's just an attractable type kind of guy. You know, I mean, and you know we start talking. You know, he's a Harris County constable, and he's been on the police force for 26 years, and you know, all this awesome stuff, right? All this cool manly stuff. Like, I'm a public servant. I love my job. And then I start talking to you, and you're like, it's not all like it's cracked up to be. It's a very tough job being the wife of a police officer and really sustaining, a good marriage and the do's and the don'ts. I mean, you've been married 32 years, and 26 of those you have been married to a police officer. And I know it's probably not been very easy.
No, it has not. And it's something that we never really look into, right? We see the man, we see the badge, we see the uniform, we see the structure. But then we often forget that when that uniform comes off, that vest gets hung up, that mic gets turned off. He's a father, he's someone's son. It's a whole different life. It's a whole different life for them too. Of what everyone needs to understand is, yes, that's your husband, but when he comes home, there's that moment that he has got to process. So when he comes home and he's quiet, he's not angry at you. He's processing everything that has happened that day. He's going through his mind of the checks and balances, right? Did I do everything right? Did I protect the guys that are under me? Did I make the right call? Could I have been better? Could I have done something better? And he's recounting all the calls, all the services that he's done that day when he walks through that door. And because, of course, that's why, right? We've dealt with the kids, the dogs, the bills, the grocery shopping, all those responsibilities. So when he comes home, what's the first thing we do? Like, blah, blah, blah. This has happened, or little Johnny's act up in school, or Susie is crying, and we just want to blurt it out, and the husbands come home and they're quiet, and we're thinking, whoa. What did I?
Right. They just get inundated when they get home with their second life, but they need to basically come down off of the day first before they can get all this other stuff. If not, it's just kind of
It builds up.
information overload, and they don't have any time to really decompress, from the day. As we all know that, police officers and firemen and EMTs alike, even the 911 dispatchers, I mean, they go through so much traumatic type stress every single day, and
And
it's not an easy job. And like I said, I very much so respect the badge and all first responders, because without them, we don't have a country.
no, no. And again, this is real life. This isn't a TV show where things are solved in 30 minutes, right? Or people get high-fived and, great job. No, this is real life. Like you said, dispatchers, firemen, police officers, you name it, our military. They shoulder a brunt of this world. Criticism, love. Um, it's hard, right? And then there's us. There's the wives. There's the ones that are keeping the home going, the children happy, our husbands happy, and then we lose ourselves because we're so inundated of making sure everything is going right that the wives kind of get pushed aside just a bit because we're again they're in service and we are too when they suffer stress and they bring that home, we're suffering with them, right? I mean, there's things that they can't talk to us about or they just don't want to relive it.
Mm.
Silence. There's times where I know my husband, even when he gets home late, I make sure he has something to eat. Ask him, babe, how's your day going? How was your night? Sometimes he just sits in silence. And I understand, wow, something. He must have seen something that has bothered him. And let him sit just for a while,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the sitting beside them is all they need. Just hold their hand, just sit beside them. Put your hand on their knee, you know, even if it's for 10 minutes. And you just simply say, I'll come back in about 20.
Right. Well, a lot of people forget that, they're human, right? They're human too. And humans all mistakes, we all make errors. And, anytime, that one time out of, a million, encounters with bad criminals, you may have that one, you know, bad incident. And now everybody thinks that, police officers are bad. And it's the biggest travesty. It's one of the biggest travesties in this country because everybody seems to, want to throw rocks, but forget that they live in a glass house and that everything must be perfect within an organization or within a department. But we all know, again, we are not robots. We are human beings. And again, human beings make errors sometimes. But 99.9% of the time, these departments are very well trained and they are making the right decisions to ensure the public safety and to ensure that they are protecting the citizens of the communities that they are representing. But that comes with a cost. It comes with the cost of probably worry. Do you worry about your husband when he goes out to work every day?
Every day. Every single the worry does not go away the longer you get married, right? It often gets worse because, like you said, society has gotten so much worse, right? And then okay, let me go back. Maybe it hadn't gotten worse. Maybe it's just more media attention to it, right? And so
Mhm.
we're now seeing it. Maybe it's always been out there. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe it is getting worse. But yes, there is not a day that goes by when that man puts on that uniform that the worry, you pray for a shield of protection around them. You pray for a shield of protection of all the men and women that are out there. And I can honestly tell you, I don't sleep. I don't sleep. I cannot sleep until the moment my drives up and I hear that back door open and the Velcro from his vest as he's walking down the hallway.
Mm.
Only then do I know that he is home safe. And
That is powerful.
yes, it. He works nights and evenings, so we miss each other, and it's been that way for years. It does take a toll on some marriages. I am very grateful that we've been able to work together as a team, but I know that he's been home because I can smell his cologne when I get home from work. Right, whenever and he knows that oftentimes when he is woken to get dressed to go to work, he can smell my perfume. We laugh about that. Like, well, we know you're still there because coffee is made and I smell your perfume. My lunch is. So yeah, worry is there. I used to be very naive and have a manner when we first got married and listened to all the calls, and I quickly realized that alone in itself was too traumatic to hear all these calls, right? So I think I threw it away. I no longer do that. I do ask him how's your day? Anything you want to talk about? Anything that you want to unload on me? Sometimes he does, sometimes he don't, and I respect that. We also make a very good effort to assure that other officers are always welcome to our home. He set up his own little cigar lounge back, by the patio with a TV and heater. He enjoys, a good cigar and good, bourbon and the men come over and I stay inside so that way they can just talk about their day. We often say, don't bring. It's here to relax and have a good time, but it often does turn to work, and that's their way of venting, and that's okay. That's how they can open up and talk about different scenarios. And well, next time, maybe this way, and, and wives that come, we hang out inside, and then we have conversations about kids and our day, and it's nice to have that system as well. And I think wives need to reach out to other wives. We need to build a bigger community on that and know that, it's not, you don't have to shoulder this alone, sister. We're here. We're all here and we can give advice. We can, tell you, yeah, I made the same mistake too. And I now handle it this way. Because we get stressed as well, right? Because we want that we see other wives have. We would love to have our husbands by our side when our children are or at school. Let's not even talk about holidays. This goes out the fiance to get married to the officer, the new wives. If you are trying to get married to this man and think that you're going to have every holiday with them, share every birthday, you're not. You're not. And please don't hold that him or what he does. He's a public servant. He's out there to serve others. Yes, you're going to wake up to Santa all by yourself. Yes, there's going to be Valentine's Day where you're going to be eating alone. Holidays, you'll celebrate it with just your family and not him. But also, too, that man wants to be there with you as well. As much as him there, he wants to be there too. He's suffering as well. He knows he's missing out. Not for one moment do these men say, "Oh, I choose to be at work"? No, they want to be there as well. Of course,
Sure.
have those men too, and we can't hold them as bad husbands because they can't show up. The divorce rate is very high in all four first responders. I don't give everything into statistics, but however, 33% of marriages end within the first 10 years of this job. 33%. And then it gets, even higher. You put it across all first responders, it's 60 to 70% ends in divorce rates. And that's to unpredictable hours, reoccurring trauma, emotional exposure, from this job, and then it turns home. There's a lot where you have for each other. If, your feelings aren't in consideration, because again, we social media, right? So everybody's posting the happy pictures of their families together on vacation, on holidays, and we're at home while our men are out there serving, and we're like, dang, I want that too. Baby,
Mhm.
it's just different. That's all. You have that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, similar to a military lifestyle, where you got, your Marine serving. And I mean, the good thing is he's home every night. A lot of, folks that are serving in the military will be gone a year, 2 years at a time. And it's, they're very hard. But even still, when they're serving here, in the States, they're still gone 10, 12 hours a day. And, there's a lot of training that's involved. And, they're still working, holidays. And, the training doesn't end because Santa Claus is coming to town, or the Easter Bunny's coming to town, or Cupid's coming to town. It don't work like that. But, so a few things here. I'm very happy that you decided to turn the scanner off, because we all know, folks, Houston is the fourth largest city in the country, and it's extremely violent. Houston is a great place. It's full of awesome people, great food, and there's a lot of great opportunity here. But it's extremely violent. In any big city, you're going to have big city violence. And now Dana is coming from the experience of big city policing, and having that worry. I mean, every single day, the homicide rate here in Houston continues to climb and climb and climb. And there's so many officer related incidents out there that a lot of the times it's like, oh no, is my number being called today? And, and that right there in its own self, is something that can cause a lot of mental health issues, anxiety, depression, the real stuff, the raw stuff that a lot of folks go through, especially the wives, not to mention the husbands, because they're going through the actual trauma itself. And then they, relive it, whether it's, like I said, coming home and having that self-isolation, or having, a nightmare, or whatever it may be. You are there to support and to lift up your husband in need because you care.
Right.
You're not part of the 33%. You are a part of that top 1% echelon that you love your husband, he loves you, and you're a team, and you're working together for the good of your marriage and for the good of your, its daughter, right?
Yes.
And your grandkids, and that right there says a lot. And the service and the sacrifice of a police officer is very real. It's no different than serving in the military. Service and sacrifice. They're not in here to be a millionaire. They're in here because they were called to serve. And where I really want to kind of switch gears here is I want Dana Williams to begin to, if you will, give this counsel, if you will, Of course, not legal counsel. I'm talking godly, biblical type counsel, and perhaps, even some sound advice to. There are so many new police officers on the street because right now we're going through that transition period. The baby boomers are getting out, and before them, before the baby boomers, that age is starting to get up there. The Gen Xers, and they're starting to get promoted, and so every police department in the country is hiring.
Correct.
And not to mention all the police officers that quit after 2020. So there's a lot of brand new families out there. And like you said, the divorce rate is so high. How can we keep these relationships blooming? And again, I think your advice here and your counsel in this next part of this podcast is going to really help out so many families out there and really add a ton of real life value out there for wives that may be experiencing a lot of what you went through 26 years ago, all the way up until this point. So what are some really good techniques or some good advice that you could share with other wives out there moving forward?
Don't reason why you should have, luckily for me, when I married my husband, he told me, hey, so a police officer, when we first were married, I went, with him through his whole, going to U of H to study to be the police officer, the academy, so forth. So he wasn't a police officer when we married. So we proved that, together. But I will say, if your soon-to-be husband, fiance, boyfriend is a police officer now, don't lose sight of the person behind that badge, behind that uniform. That's who you fell in love with. He's still there. Don't lose him. Don't lose yourself. Don't lose your laughter. I tell my friends often, our jokes are a little dark. At things that possibly some people don't find it funny, but we do. Don't lose your love, your laughter. Everything you fell in love with that person, keep it going. Find new hobbies, get hobbies together. Allow him to have his hobby, whether fine cigars and a good bourbon or golfing or, go to the batting cages, take a ride together. When I pack his lunch, I always leave him little notes. And whenever he's off on his Mondays and I'm going into work and I pack my lunch for me, he slips a little note too. And I hang those in my office. Don't forget the sweetness. Be compassionate to each other. Understand that as the years progress, your role changes. Children do grow up. They do get a life of their own, a family of their own. Keep your husband close to you. Keep him always, pray for him. Pray for the other families. Pray for yourself. It's okay. You will get used to the, hey, babe, do you have time for a meal break with me? Yeah. Why don't you, it happened to me last night. He was like, I'm so hungry. And I was like, well, I did make you a lunch. He was like, hey, do you have time to eat with me? Absolutely. If that means that I get 15, 20 minutes with that man that I don't get to see him, because he does have extra jobs. Absolutely. I will eat with you. The minute I pulled up in the parking lot, he got a call and he had to go. And that was okay. You will have those moments and you laugh about it. And you're like, I'll just get your order to go and I'll drop it off to you. There's times where you go to a restaurant and you are sitting in front of each other and he's talking to you about some of the calls that he just came off of, and you place your order and, the meal comes out, gets set, and he gets a call. And he has to get up from his seat, run out the door. the whole restaurant turns and looks at you. And he turns on his lights and he's going, and everybody's still staring at you, thinking that you have the answer of why he just left. And many a times you sit there and you eat your meal alone and you get his to go. And that's okay. It's all right. Pack it up, give it to him. You know, when he gets, and you laugh. You laugh about how everybody stares at you, and it's like you just want to go, ta-da.
So is it important to do you build networks within the network itself? Like, do you hang out with the other wives of the police officers that he works with, or do you guys kind of just keep to yourself in your private life and let him maintain his professional uh, life, going to work and coming home, and then having a separate private life with you, besides his camaraderie with his fellow officers that come over on cigar night?
Well, yes and no. So because, being a police officer and a police officer wife is a whole different breed, right? We have a whole different type of rules, scenarios, and humor. So we tend to always go towards people, other couples that generally are in law enforcement or, public service. Um, so a lot of his friends are, military, and other officers, right? The wives, we tend to, you know, always attend, functions. Like I just went to a baby shower, for his lieutenant. Um, they're having their first grandchild, and I was honored to be invited to that. And of course I went. Of course, you want to celebrate those highs with everybody within, birthdays, anniversaries. You get invited, you go. You want to celebrate that. Um, and so we make sure that we are, a part of that, type of family. We love going to functions, whether it's supporting another, department. Um, we love to go to that, and we do attend that. And and I can't stress enough that, and of course I need to get better as well of reaching out to other officers' wives in other, departments. My husband and I just spoke about that, a few days ago of, I need to really send out, since we're so social media based, see if I can't get a group of law enforcement Leo wives, just to come together, just even if it's a simple chat of, you know, hey guys, this happened, or my husband's going through this, or, we're going through that, or, you know, Christmases, hey, Merry Christmas, we're all there, we're all there.
Is it lonely being the wife of a police officer?
Yes, it does tend to get lonely, in a sense of, not that you don't have people around you, right? It gets lonely of when he's working his extra jobs and he's not home, or when he is at home but he gets a call out. So you're left at home. Your children are raised, they're out the house, so you have the dogs and the walls around you, right? Um, and I'm sure other wives are going through that, where you've gone through the whole, you kept busy because you had little ones, you had little feet running around. So you kept your nose in, their school, their dealings, their sports, their everything else. And then again, your children are doing what they're supposed to do, grow up, go to college or get married, start a family of their own. And then you're still left in the role of the policeman's wife, who his role hadn't changed. He still gets the call outs. He still has the extra jobs. He still is working the holidays. So oftentimes, if you don't get invited to, a friend's or something for a holiday, you often are at home by yourself on that holiday. And again, it's okay. It's all right.
You know, I wasn't really primarily speaking on the loneliness of not having your husband at home all the time or working the same schedule to where you can be with each other when you guys are both off work. I guess I was kind of referring to the wife of a police officer can still go through the same exact behaviors as the officer itself when it comes to self-isolating. I was saying before, there's anxieties involved here and there's depression involved here. So even if you are within a group or within a club of, say, other wives of law enforcement, sometimes do you just want to just sit and not be bothered and just have that quality time alone so you too can kind of regain some of your sanity back after some tough days or tough weeks or perhaps even tough months?
Oh, absolutely. Um, I can't stress enough at it. Sometimes, like I said, like they process coming home, right? You yourself go through that same when he does tell you what happened and you're trying to wrap your head around like so much evilness in this world, or when he comes home and tells you about a child case or an elderly case, and that affects you too, because you're like, uh, wow. And you do, when you have to have that process of making the right choices, um, saying the right things, doing the right actions. Um, how can I be better tomorrow? What could I've changed that I said, I did? What could I've done more? Just like they go through. That wife, we're doing that too. Like, could I have handled something different to where I didn't create an argument? Should I have, you know, was it my tone? Was it the way that I said it? Could I phrased it differently? Yeah, I mean, we definitely do sit back and have to process everything of wow, this week was a lot. This week, what the mental was a lot. um, and again, you find different avenues, right, of how to process it. There are times when I feel like my mental load is a lot, that I've taken on a little bit more than what I should have. When he gets home and he winds down, he's my confidant. I'll go and tell him, and normally he can tell by the look on my face or by my silence, right? Because believe it or not, I'm not a very silent person. So when I get quiet, he knows, oh, there's something going on. And again, that comes with his background, right? And he'll ask me, hey, what's going up in that coconut of yours? What's happening? Something's different. I've noticed you're reacting differently, or you're not handling things like you normally do. And so I'll take a deep breath, and because you don't want to spill out all your worries on him, because they have so much that they have to deal with, that you keep everyday stuff and you just compartmentalize it in your own little brain, in your box, right? Because you don't want to worry them with your stuff, because they have to deal with all of everybody else's stuff, that yours becomes so much as well. And so, yeah, I've learned now where I have opened up more to him of, yeah, this is what happened. And I know it's so silly in the scope of things of what you go through, but yeah, this happened to me today at work, or, something I saw, going grocery shopping, or something that I went through. So yeah, it sometimes it does get lonely, because you don't want to spill your guts to them, because You don't want them to have to come home to that, right? Because they're home when they get home and take off that vest. That should be their decompression moment. And so you don't want to unload on them. You want it to where they can feel safe when they get home, and one less worry or issue to have to solve. And you learn to, it's okay. My issue is his issue. When, we said I do, we took all of this on. And then I as well took on when he puts that badge on.
You know, I understand why you've been married for 32 years. Now, I mean, you're a very genuine and sincere spouse, and that's really, you don't see a lot of that these days. Very much old fashioned, where the wife take care of the husband's every need, and that you're always there for him. And a lot of this podcast has been based upon what you do for him. But I know it's not a one-way street here. Because, I mean, you are a person too, and you're living this with your spouse. And, as you said, his issues are your issues, but your issues are also his issues. Now, what about Dana? What about Dana Williams? What do you do to help combat your bad days? And what do you do to take care of yourself and your own mental health? Do you have hobbies? Do you go outside? Do you run? Do you walk? Do you paint? Do you read books? What does Dana do, and what can you recommend to other wives out there?
So, it's funny you should say that. Years ago, I wasn't into nutrition or going to the gym, believe it or not. And one birthday, he asked me, "What would you like for me to give to your, what do you want for your birthday?" And I was like, "I'm going to go to a nutritionist." I know, odd thing for a wife to ask for, right? Some people want purses. I was like, I want a nutritionist. I want to know how I can better my health, how I can better our health. What can I do? So I got very active on learning how to eat right, cook differently, and I started going to the gym, and I started loving that. And then I got him involved, and we go to the gym. That's our time. And I know it sounds silly. I work days, he works evenings, sometimes he works nights. I get home at 6, 7 o'clock at night. He gets home at 10, 11 o'clock. I could have already done cardio, and I still wait on him. And we go to the gym, whether it's 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night. I'm at that gym with him. And I'm pumping it out of, what happened to me through the day. I love to bake. There is not a neighbor on my street that doesn't get cookies or cakes or any of my little confectionery.
I'm gonna need some of that bacon. Trust me. I said bacon? No, I said baking. Man, I'm getting that Texas accent more and more every day.
Oh, let me. I can make you whatever you want. And of course, again, my parents are from Louisiana. All that crawfish etouffee and gumbo. I'm your girl, and everyone knows that when I make that gumbo, I have knocks at the door, and I welcome everybody. And that's self-care, ladies. Whether it's taking that moment of an hour to go get a massage, do it. Go. You like to read? Go to the library. Get off the Kindle. Actually pick up a book. Flip those pages. Go outside. I walk my neighborhood. I'm very involved in our HOA. I sit on the board. I'm very involved with my neighbors, with the community. Excuse me. I want to know what's going on. I have the sisterhood of my colleagues that I work with. Our sense of humor. Go get your nails done. You know what? It's 30 minutes to yourself. Just go get it done. Go get your feet done. Go get your hair done. It's okay to be taking care of you because you're taking care of him, you know. And I love coffee. And I can honestly tell you that my husband, every night when he comes home, we have a coffee maker that brews coffee at the time that you set it. Do you know that he makes my coffee for me every morning? Every morning when I wake up, I get my big old thermos and fill it up, you know, for work. And I love that. And it may sound so little, but it's those little acts of kindness that we do for each other. You don't need big things, right? You don't need a new house, a new car. You need those little things. Making my coffee, making a ham sandwich for me and putting it in my lunchbox, you know, um, putting a few little Hershey kisses, you know, in my lunch thing with a little note that says, here's some kisses for you. That is so sweet. I don't need flowers every day. I don't have to have the big show of love. Um, showing up, showing up when it matters. Um, when you see that I have a bad day, you know, again, my face unfortunately doesn't hide. Um, that hug, that little that little hug, that little grab of my hand when I'm walking past, you know, past him. I love those things. When he sees me, oh, I'm not a green thumb. I kill many a bushes, but I'm really trying. My 2024 is to have a better yard. So I planted some stuff. Cross your fingers, I remember to water them this year. He went out and bought me a couple of rose bushes to plant out there, all on his own. And I planted them, and I thought that was the sweetest thing. So now every time I water them, cross your fingers, I remember. I think of that. So, you know, that ladies, take care of yourself. Go ahead and do those little things. It,
Self-care is the number one thing that you've said here today, because it increases your confidence, as well. And being a confident woman is very, very important. Like you say, get your nails done, get your hair done. You want to be, you want to be proud to go out in town, with your husband. And this has nothing to do with law enforcement now. This just has to do with life and having a successful marriage.
yeah.
And, you stay in your lane sometimes and he stays in his lane, and sometimes that lane merges. And then you're together, and then you're off on your own separate paths, and then that lane comes right back. But there's nothing better than the medicine of anxiety and depression than to go to the gym or to go on a walk, go outside, smell that jasmine, smell that magnolia, especially right now in spring. It's all in bloom. I go outside, and that endorphin rush is better than any pill that you can take, because it makes you happy. It takes your mind to a place of joy and peace and happiness, even if it's for that 1 hour. That right there is what can get a lot of people through the day. And then additionally, by you getting that endorphin rush, your mood is going to be up here for the next 4 to 5 hours. And so you're able to have a more positive, look on life. Everything just kind of comes together in a more, a positive way, if you will. Now, to go back to the law enforcement side, uh, police officers these days, unfortunately, have targets on their back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, does that target ever come off when they're out of uniform, or does that target always remain on that police officer?
Oh, it definitely always remains on that police officer, right? Especially if you live in the community that you serve, right? Um, which we do. It's, you know, what I have learned, what I lived through. Let me just put it that way. What I lived through when we go to a restaurant. a movie theater, any function, he looks to where he can sit with his back up against the wall and he can view the door. Before we leave any place, he's already mapped out where we go, how long it's going to go to get there. We always arrive 30 minutes early. So I'm always applying my makeup in the car, guys. And he already knows what he's going to eat if we go to a restaurant because he's already looked at the menu. He's seen how far it is from the house. When we are in the restaurant, he's scanning. He's constantly scanning and looking around and assessing everything from who comes in, who goes out, who's sitting there, who's waiting on us. And when your food comes out, I mean, they eat it within 5 minutes. And you're like, hey, did you even taste that? Because they're so used to eating so fast because they know it's another call, right? While you're cutting into your steak, they've already devoured theirs. So saying that, now that's kind of rubbed off on me to where I will not leave the house by myself when it starts to get dark. I do carry, and it's always on me. If I go to the mall, I know I'm not there for an hour or two. I map out what store I'm going to, and I go directly there. I don't go lollygagging anymore in the mall. When I'm walking out into the parking lot, if I feel some kind of a way, I immediately go to security and ask security, hey, do you mind walking me to my car? It could be nothing. It could just be a feeling of something that I got, while I was going out the door. And I asked for assistance if they could walk me to my car. And it's funny because when I get to my car, the first thing I do is I look in the back to make sure there's nobody in there. I make sure that my car wasn't, broken. It's just so silly. And you get in and you immediately lock the doors and you turn on your car, right? Grocery shopping the same way. You would think that I'm running a marathon with my cart when I'm running into the store. It's ridiculous. I got to get better about that. Even too, when I go to the restaurant, when I go out with my girls, to have lunch or brunch, I tend to as well, make sure where I'm sitting, I can see everything and assess everything and watch who is coming in and who is leaving. So we start those traits as well, ladies. And if you haven't yet, it's coming. Give it time. It's coming. It is not that you don't trust the world. They give you different goggles to look through when they come home and tell you what they experience. And so you view everything yourself differently. When we go to functions of families, he always thinks he knows he can get there better and faster than GPS. If GPS says we get there in an hour, it's like challenge accepted. Let's see if we can make it 45 minutes. They drive.
Exactly. I do the same thing, man. It's always a race against the GPS. It's always a race against time.
Yes. Get used to it. They always drive in the left lane. Even in their personal cars, they will act like they forget they're not in their patrol cars. So they are almost on the bumper of this other car thinking that they're going to move to the right, but they don't. And I have to remind him, babe, they're not going to move over. You can slow down and, I don't know, go around them. And he's like, oh, yeah, because he forgets, right? He's not in his duty vehicle because people should generally, if you see an emergency vehicle behind you, move over and let them pass, right? And that's the other thing that I worry about, officers that, pull over, cars. My biggest worry is him getting hit by another vehicle. Do they see them? Because people generally, I've witnessed on the road, do not slow down, when they see another officer on the side of the road. Guys, let's be better. Slow down.
My pet peeve, anytime a police officer has anybody pulled over, I go over a lane. Yes. I slow down about 10 miles an hour and I get over to the next lane. And then once I've passed safely, I get back over to the right lane and I go about my business. There are so many police officers killed with cars that are veering off the road. And I mean, they get hit all the time, whether it's the their cruiser, and then their cruiser flips, and a lot of guys get lucky and the car barely misses them, or they don't. A lot of them don't make it. And it was a routine. Well, I know there's nothing routine in police work, but it was just a traffic stop that maybe they were just going to scratch a quick ticket and get on with their day. Now they've lost their life, because they had somebody pulled over on the freeway or on the interstate, whatever it may be. And because of somebody's recklessness, they are no longer going to be coming home, to their spouse and to their children, and to their grandchildren, their families, and their friends. In a New York minute, anything can change. But is the lifestyle worth it? You've told me a lot about all the negatives about police work. And I know, again, people don't do this because they're going to get rich. They do it because they care about the community that they serve, and that they have been called to serve the greater good of their state, of their county, of their city, of their local community. You sit on an HOA board. You too are a servant. And it kind of goes hand in hand in what you guys do. And it speaks very high volumes of you and your husband and the amount of time that you've been married. But look, let's face it, you've been the wife of a police officer for 26 years. Is the lifestyle worth it? Or would you have maybe gone a different direction looking back 26 years later?
No, because I didn't fall in love with his profession. I fell in love with him. So would I have changed anything? No. Would have I directed him in a different way of the path that he has chosen? No. Like you said, this was his calling. He loves what he genuinely does. He loves serving the public, even with the bad that comes with it. I love him. I'm not in love with his badge or what he stands for. I love the man behind that badge. And that is what's gotten us to the 32 years.
Again, 26 years he's been a police officer. And I know with politics and everything else, the job has changed dramatically. Have these changes, I mean, I know a lot of police officers out there, and they're like, it's so hard for us to do our job. We arrest the bad guys, and a day later, they're right back out on the streets. They're reoffending. And it's only just a matter of time before we arrest them the 8th or 9th or 10th time, but they're going to come out guns a-blazing. And again, that is total disrespect to the police officers that are putting their lives on the line every single day to keep rearresting the same dangerous and violent criminals that are going to get re-released and re-released and re-released. And I know the job has changed dramatically over the last 26 years, but have you seen it personally go from where we were 26 years ago up into the current era that we're living in now with police work? And are you at all surprised on how it's changed, or really has it not changed for 26 years through the eyes of Dana?
Yes and no. Yes, it's changed. I think it's changing for the better as far as there's more schooling that's available for these officers, right? There's more training. I should say that. There's more training, whether it's training to get out of a situation or it's training to know how to be more caring, compassionate, and how to treat those that they identify with mental health, right? Because there are a lot of offenders out there that do suffer from mental health, which is why they offend. And I'm very proud that the department that he works for offers that training to the officers, and I love the fact that the officers that do come to the house tell us, oh, we're going into training for that. I'm like, yes, there is a lot of mental illness out there, right? A lot of these calls are because of mental health, and you need to know how to treat the situation properly when you get there. Do I think that it's gone from the bad? I think what I've seen personally is the disrespect And I don't think it's just disrespect for the ones that hold the badge. I think it's a disrespect in the general population for everybody. There's a sense of entitlement, right? There's this sense of, you're not going to tell me what to do just because you're a police officer. So I'm not going to identify myself because I don't have to identify myself. I don't have to comply. Um, you know, complying doesn't mean weakness, fool. Um, you know, all you got to do is just give your name. What's so bad about handing over your driver's license? If you have nothing to fear or to hide or anything, tell them your name, roll down your window. There's some where my husband said that he pulled over someone because they had a tail light in the back. And all they wanted to do was to give them a warning of, hey, you need to get your light fixed. And they start with that whole, I'm not rolling down my window because I'm in fear of you, or they crack the window this much, don't want to give their ID. And it's like, my husband's standing on the side of the road trying to convince them, hey, you're fine. You're not in danger. I'm more in danger than you because I'm standing outside side of the road. I just want to identify you. Just give me your name. And then they have a great conversation, for 20, 30 minutes on the side of the road, where my husband now understands this person's mindset of why, because something could have happened in the past. And then he gets a clearer vision of when my husband explains his situation and his job and why we have to ask for this and why we do ask for this. And next thing you know, they're shaking hands on the side of the road. And now he has a friend. My husband makes friends everywhere. So odd. And so do I see that it's getting worse? It's getting worse at the fact that we're letting more people off on things that we shouldn't. That has everything to do with the judges and the DA. And it's very taxing on other officers that are trying to be that public servant, be that shield of honest, good going, providing citizens out there that they're supposed to protect. And it's like a slap in the face when, they put someone in jail and they're out on $100 bond, and it's like, it makes them question, well, am I just human babysitters at this point?
The crazy thing I see that's so sad is that it's as if, society, in general, and this next generation of, say, college kids, the 20 to 25 year crowd has been green lighted, in a way to go out and to almost entrap police officers into making a mistake. Because anytime they engage or encounter anybody, what's going on?
Exactly.
Okay, so this is what's going on, okay? And they could be doing this for 30 minutes, and the cops already asked politely, 100 times over the last 30 minutes, hey, and I hear it, the kids, I've been on over 100 ride-alongs in 5 different states, and these police officers are overly polite. They don't want anything to go sour. No. They've got body cameras on and everything else, but these people are trying to entrap the officer to do one thing wrong so they could take that 5 seconds of video, go out, blow it up, completely change the narrative here of what was going on. And now you have a police officer that's always done everything right. His job's in jeopardy. His life's in jeopardy. His family's life's in jeopardy, over people being non-compliant. Our society has justified this, the rude behavior of police officers, and I am afraid that we will no longer have police officers in the coming years that are going to want to be there because they want to be there. They're going to be there because the pay's going to go up so high because everybody's leaving the job. So they're like, I don't really want to be a cop, but they're going to pay $150,000 a year because nobody wants to be a cop. So I'll just go out there. I'll go through the police academy and I'll just go, I'll just be a body out there. I won't respond to calls like I really care, like a lot of cops do. Like I said, your husband's in this to save lives. He's in this to protect the citizens of his community. He's in this to protect his brothers and sisters in arms behind that badge. And if we don't have this next generation begin to change their thoughts on how police and their overall opinions of police officers, again, we are going to be living in a very lawless society, third world type stuff. And I'm beginning to see it right now, not only on the streets of Houston, but across the nation from sea to shining sea. Let me get your final thoughts on that.
Oh, I could not agree with you more. But here's the funny part in that. Yes, they start waving that camera around, but what you don't see is that camera on when the incident happened and why that officer is reacting that way, right? You only see it when the officer reacts, but they never give the reason that led up to that reaction. It's like parenting, right? No parent wants to like discipline their child, spank their child, put them in the corner, however you discipline in your house. But there was a series of events that led up to that. That's what's not being shown in the very beginning. Hence, I recommend every department to have those body cams, because the moment that those lights go on in their cars, that body cam comes on. So you can see from what happened to why it escalated the way that it did. But it's that social media. It's that how many likes can I get? How many followers can I get? Whether the intention is to have the whole narrative or partial narrative, it doesn't matter. It's the following that matters, right? And yes, it has made their jobs a lot harder, because it's unbelievable superpowers that's behind that camera, that normally that person probably would never have acted that way, talked that way, or anything to another human being outside of a police officer. But when that camera is on, that disrespect is right there, because they're hoping that people jump on and give them that likes and give them those numbers. It's really ridiculous.
I could not agree more with you. And again, you're talking about what led up to it. These folks are professional agitators. They cherry pick everything, and they only show specific parts and highlights. Like you said, oh, I'm going to get clout on TikTok because I'm going to take this officer down. I'm going to ruin his or her life. And again, they've done nothing wrong. They're doing their job. And more police officers aren't wanting to act as if they are really going to protect their community and make an arrest in fear of, was I a little too rough on the arrest? I mean, the guy did have a gun, so am I doing the wrong? And the more you think about like how you need to respond while you're responding, that 1 second is going to get that officer killed. That 2 seconds is going to get that officer killed. And then what? Oh, we have another, funeral, and everybody's lining the streets, and the media is going to come out, and they're going to have a bleeding heart. And then it's wash, rinse, repeat on to the next one. Nothing's really done in it. You have the camaraderie and the closeness and the family unit of the cops come together, and that's it. It's over. And that right there is no way to not only live life, but to work, as a whole. I mean, that's not healthy, to always be going through that. And it's an everyday thing. I mean, I can imagine it's every day. I mean, I see police officers just driving their car, and I'll see people doing this again, trying to get a reaction, trying to entrap that officer into laughing or smiling or, doing this to them or, whatever. And it's ridiculous. And again, if we don't stop this, we're not going to have cops.
No.
And again, if we do have cops, they're not going to be the right cops that we need to police our community. They're not going to be in it. Their heart is not going to be in it for the right reasons. And right now, we are lucky to still have some police officers out there that are in it for the right reasons. I know 2020, a lot of cops left the police force, and they're still leaving the police forces in bulk 4 years later. And it's hard to replace these officers because it takes time to train. It takes time to get them through schooling and all that. It takes time for the field training. And again, who is joining right now between that age of 18 to 25? Those are the agitators. Those are the folks that do not respect the badge, and they do not respect, that authority, like, no, you're not going to tell me what to do. And again, they go to the Constitution. Again, they cherry pick that too. Where can the Constitution help me right now? Oh, and other than that, the rest of the Constitution can just be thrown in the trash because I don't really follow that, because again, that doesn't hold any precedent to me. Only this and that does. So when I go to court or when I get arrested, I'm only going to say, this is against my constitutional right. This is against my violation of, of me being an American, blah, 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 blah. And it's just, it's just one of those things that, you got to just pray that the hearts and minds of millions will one day be changed because of life's circumstances of what they go through, because a lot of people don't wake up to what's going on until they are a victim of violent crime, or their family or a friend is a victim of violent crime, and then they can say, oh my God, this is real. It's not just something you hear on the radio or something you hear on the news. This is happening in my community, and these are the officers that are protecting me from that. I mean, literally, there's a line drawn in the sand, good and evil. And if we don't have that good out there, that evil will completely take over this country. And I'm telling you, I'm starting to see it. I don't like it. And it's not great. It's not good for our children, for your grandchildren, for everybody else out there that's trying to live a life in peace and in opportunity and prosperity. But unfortunately, we are going through some tough times right now in America. But I do sincerely believe that we can pull out of it. We're a very resilient country. And we have a lot of great men and women in this country that want to see this country do well and not collapse, under the regime of basically people that are disrespecting the law. We are a nation of laws. And if you don't have law and order, again, you don't have a country. Without a country, we're in a just occupied land, and what? It's the Wild West again.
Right. In order for us to have freedom, right, we have to have laws, which are essentially rules that everybody, has to follow, to have one cohesiveness of where everyone lives. The same laws applies to everyone. Just because I'm a woman, the laws don't change for me as they do for, my husband. Like we all have to follow, we all have to comply. We all have to be respectful to one another. Morals, values, I see a lot of morals and values, tanking, which it's funny because, you can walk out the house believing one thing, and then you're with a group of people, and, all of a sudden you lose it. I don't understand, but that's a different topic. But yeah, it's definitely changing. I'm hoping that, it will get better. You just have to keep trucking every day, right? Making the right choices, make better choices. That's what, my granddaughter likes to tell me is, make better choices. Everybody has to do that. Everybody has to look out for everybody else, right? If you see someone in distress, don't take out your camera, go help. Everything doesn't need to be on social media. Everything doesn't need to be filmed. Put down that camera, go help. You see a fellow officer down, put down the camera, go help. Go help that officer.
I've seen a lot of that lately.
Yes.
Like, you'll see stuff. Somebody getting violently attacked, and there's 20 people filming this attack.
Yes.
And I'm like, dude, there's not one person in that group of 20 people that's going to jump in to rescue whoever is getting beat down on the streets. It's like we as a society have been absolutely what's the word I'm looking for here? Like demoralized, right? Is that the word I'm looking for? We are blood and guts, is what the American people like. It's like they thrive on it. And it's like if I was one of the 20 there, my instinct is to go in there and separate that stuff and break it. I mean, that's the first thing I'm gonna think of. The first thing I'm not gonna think of is, oh my God, I gotta break my phone out and I'm gonna film this fight. And that's what they do in high schools too. When I was in high school, there'd be fist fights all the time. And you would handle it on the playground. But as soon as that first or second, somebody would get in there and break it up. And, it would be like a 10-second, 15, 20-second fight. And then somebody would break it up. But now, these high schoolers, and I've seen them because my kids have shown me, they're like, look at this disgusting act. I'm talking people almost beating kids to death in school cafeterias, in school classrooms. You have students that are beating up teachers. Again, there's no consequences. So if you have no consequences for your actions, they're going to keep doing this. But again, nobody is standing up to fight for the greater good because they don't feel it's their problem or they don't feel it's their duty or their job. People have forgotten what it is to be an American. We have a responsibility as citizens in this country. And people fail to understand that you have a civic duty. And if you don't carry that out, shame on you. You've just made this country a worse place, and we need to make it a better place every single day. And again, it's these actions. It's the coddledness of this new culture. It's a culture problem.
It is.
Where a lot of this is.
I want to say that, with all the social media and the cameras and the news, we've been desensitized.
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. Desensitized that, again, nobody's going to show emotion unless it's happening to them.
Yes.
If it's happening to somebody else, they're laughing and they're joking and it's all fun and games until they get hurt or a loved one that they care about gets hurt. And then it's, oh my God, what have we done? What have we,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it goes back to, the generation behind my generation, behind that generation. When I was growing up, and even if you participated in sports, right, you either were good or you weren't. You either played on the A team or you sat on the bench. And if you didn't want to sit on the bench, what did you do? You practiced more. You got extra help on things through a coach, and you become better. And you worked on it until you got to play because you become better. Now I'm seeing more and more of kids or even adults in certain things. We're handing out participation trophies. What is that teaching them of, oh, you can be subpar, but we're going to hand you this trophy for just showing up? No. Oh, I lost you.
It's like this. You got Johnny out there, and Johnny's putting in all this work, and Johnny's doing everything that he can to get better, to make the team. And then you got Mikey over here who doesn't show up to practice, and all of a sudden, what happens? They get the same amount of playing time. Johnny becomes completely just, I'm done with this team. I'm probably just going to walk away from sports because I'm having a really bad, experience over here. This coach doesn't want to win. He's playing everybody. And And again, that's how all the morale, is constantly brought down. It's not like that everywhere. I mean, I know my sons and daughters' school that they go to is very, it's amazing. It's amazingly ran, but not all schools are ran like their schools are. But again, it's got to be a huge, kick to know that you're doing everything the right way. And it seems as if the better you do, the more you're punished, and the least you contribute, the more you're rewarded. And again, that's the culture that we are living in today. But with that, Dana, look, we are thrilled that you came on the show. We had a great conversation. I think we covered a lot of different unique topics. And I know some of your words out there today are going to really connect with a lot of folks out there. And it doesn't matter if they're the wife of a police officer, or if they're an accountant, or if they're, bagging groceries at your local Kroger. You added some real life value today. And for that, we are honored to have had you. And we thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Stand by just 1 second. Let me go ahead and wrap up this show. Folks, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the program. It has never been easier to listen to this podcast. We are on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TikTok, and Twitter. Simply search, or it's called X today. X. TikTok and X. I know my TikTok. I started a TikTok 4 months ago or 5 months ago, and that's a little different than the actual podcast stuff. We do a lot of podcast clips, and then I give 1-2 minute, opinions. It's a little spicy, but very, very professional. I still do, keep it above the belt, if you will. But all you got to do is search Today with Tally, and you will find all the episodes. Also learn more about me and my personal story, and perhaps even get my new book. Check it out, my new book. It's an awesome read. Go to briantally.com, folks. That's briantally.com. Folks, remember to stay inspired, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and always stay in the fight, especially in this world that we're living in today, folks. You got to hang in there. You got to always stay in the fight. Until next time for the Today with Tally podcast, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi. God bless.
This is the Today with Tally podcast.